Problem with nerfing the damage instead of accuracy is a lot of players wouldn't be happy if they get hit, even if it was a much weaker hit. Making the CV miss the surface ship player feels better. That is true. It does feel better for the surface ship player. So you're saying they're nerfing based on pro players without how it affects the non-pro players. You just want to see if this is what you're saying. No, but you have to design for outliers. So let's take an in-game example. We will do this. So first off, I'm going to show you an Enterprise, or actually I'm going to show you a Shikaku. The fuck? Did I break the game? Did I kill it? Is it dead? It feels like it's dead. We're going to have to reboot the game. Sad times. Game is not running. You want surface-to-air missiles on your cruisers? You would say non-pro players aren't affected as much by the plays because they didn't have the consistency to begin with. Well, one of the things that I've argued is that diminishing returns would probably be the best way of compressing the outliers, as opposed to having RNG with the larger reticle, as opposed to having less damage with the reduced damage, because you might hit... The other thing is with the reduced reticle, or sorry, the increased reticle, you'll miss destroyers more, but you'll still hit cruisers and battleships at an increased, at the rate that you're probably expecting. So you might do 4 to 7k against a destroyer, but with the larger reticle, you're still hitting 8 to 12k against a cruiser, and that might be the sweet spot for what you're trying to go for. When you reduce the damage, but you've got a really accurate reticle, you're hitting a DD for 5 to 8, you're hitting a cruiser for 5 to 8, you're hitting a battleship for 5 to 8. So that's kind of awkward. Whereas having that larger reticle means you're going to miss some on the small ship, you're going to miss a little on the medium ship, you're going to miss not much at all on the big ship. So the damage scales appropriately to the ships with larger amounts of health. You want SAMs on your cruisers? You bet they're coming? I don't know if they're coming. I don't know about that, Tim. Okay, so we're going to look at... We'll do a Shikaku. And we'll go against... What's something with shitty detection? Destroyers? I want something with shitty detection but doesn't have damage saturation. Russian? Russian DDs. There we go. That's right. So we'll go for the Graz, maybe? Although the Graz detection isn't bad. I don't know. Whatever. We're going to play the Shikaku. We're going to rocket the Graz. So Wargaming wants CVs more technically difficult to play. This is one of the main... This is one of the main features before the CV rework. It's different in terms of execution. So I would say that it's fundamentally different to being good at jump roping and then having to jump rope at a faster speed than having to manipulate 2 different jump ropes on your body at the same time, even at a slower speed. Because manipulating 2 different things at the same time is discordant. It mentally requires multitasking, and humans are not natively great at multitasking. If I understand correctly, humans don't multitask. They just have multiple things running, and they basically switch from one to the other very quickly. So they can put it on hold, basically, while they swap back and forth. So, like, you might have a StarCraft pro player that's doing 7 different things at one time, but they're not thinking in 7 different directions. They've got 7 different applications open, and they're just tabbing between them all in their head. All right, so here we've got some Grazes. Right. So this is an accurate reticle striking a destroyer. There's 9k, and this is a tier 8 ship. And we can come back in and do this again. So this is accurate reticle against destroyer. And technically, we should also have a cruiser out here so we can see what that looks like too. There's 10. It's called sequencing? Okay. So like some humans, me, I'm not great at sequencing. I don't multi-thread, 5 different events at the same time. I'm usually kind of stuck dealing with one. So this is an accurate reticle. And then for comparison, we'll use a tier 10. So we'll use the Hakuryu because we were just derping around with that, right? Come on. Come on. Please work. Not asking very much. I just need you to do the thing that you always do. And the reason you're spending quality time in a... Really? Really, dude? Really with the black screen on this again? Let's try this again. Alright, come on, come on. But, alright, so we're going to look at, eventually, we're going to look at the rockets off of tier 10 comparing to a destroyer, a cruiser, and a battleship. And the reason we're going to do that is, which actually I should use the Midway HVARs for, so we'll do the Midway. The reason we're going to do that is to show that having a single reticle that's wider is going to affect smaller ships, medium ships, and large ships differently, or at least it should. Think you go back to a green screen? I mean, I have it back there for COTS. I was just surprised how many people in the channel were like, "Oh, I don't like that." No, I miss the setting. I miss seeing you in the place doing the stuff. Okay, I didn't expect it, but a lot of people stated it. I don't know. Come on, come on, you can do it. You can do it, game. You too? As in, you're confused why they thought that, or you liked having the room and stuff? All right, so we're going to use the Midway, because the Midway has 33 mil pen on the rockets. So here's the Graz, because we just saw some Graz. Let's get a... I'm just going to keep it basic. We'll go with a Des Moines. And then we'll go with something that has 33 mil armor for demonstration purposes, which would be like a French Republic, whatever. So we'll have rockets that'll pen into that. Confused? You wouldn't have thought it? People fear change, but they also forget that anything's changed after a day or two. That is truth. Once you acclimate, it's not that scary. Okay, so the Midway rocket reticles. Midway HVARs were never great. The Tiny Tims actually had the sharper reticle. So people used Tiny Tims until the reticle nerf, or the reticle change, I should say, in which case Tiny Tims HVARs actually became like personal preference. So we're gonna see a lined up shot on a DD, then a cruiser, then a battleship. And theoretically what we should see with the larger reticle is that the DD should be hit some, the cruiser hit more, and the battleship hit even more. Now, my personal belief is if they added a damage mitigation, or sorry, a damage diminishing returns aspect. So like the first 3 rockets hit for normal damage, the next 3 rockets hit for 75% damage, the next 3 hit for 50% damage, the next 3 hit for whatever. Then you start trimming down the outliers. So this is much bigger. We did 6. Cool. It's not the 9 or 10 that it was before, but we did 6. It'd be nice if we saw that shit in game, but we don't, so that's cool. If you go into a training room, you'll see it. You go into a game, nah. But we're gonna go for the Des Moines, so the goal to beat is 6K. It's gonna be 10. Then we got a battleship, which is even bigger. This is covered in 32mm armor. So theoretically, because it's a bigger target, we should hit more. I guess we'll go in on this one because these take a while to prime. Also 10. So what we've seen is having the larger reticle means the destroyer will take some or a decent amount of what's coming, whereas the cruisers and the battleships, which are larger, are going to sponge up more of what the reticle has to offer. So using the wider reticle is going to benefit the smaller stuff, but still keep the other stuff kind of damage relevant, because battleships have a lot of health, cruisers have medium health, destroyers have little health. As opposed to you just change the number, in which case, well, I hit the DD accurately, but I don't do much. Which means if you hit the DD for 5k, you hit the cruiser for 5k, you hit the battleship for 5k. Don't know if that's going to be the win. But for me, I will just over-explain, because that's what I do. Can I get out of this? Is this possible? I think we can. I think we can. I think we can. I think we can. If we had diminishing return, for instance, if you take the shot at the destroyer, but you have an accurate reticle, so you expect, you know, so it could be like this, but it could also be like this, in which case, you know, most of it's going to hit depending on, you know, the line of the shot you get. Then if you fire 20 rockets, say, the first 5 deal 100%, the next 5 deal 75, the next 5 deal 50, the next 5 deal 25%, then if they do 1,000 damage per rocket, well, whatever, easy numbers. If they do 1,000 damage per rocket, you got 5,000 damage, and you'll have some less. Actually, we'll change this to 50. We'll change this to 25, because then easier numbers. And maybe after that, it just doesn't even matter. So this will be 2,500. This will be 1,200, which is going to zone in on roughly 8. But if you have somebody that only lands 5 rockets, then you have a 5 to 8 spread. So this is what you zone in on. You tweak the numbers until you get it to where you want. So maybe you want a 3 to 6 spread. So you can tweak the damage, the diminishing returns for destroyers. And then instead of having these same diminishing return numbers for destroyers, you have different ones for cruisers. So the cruisers, if you land 5, it's going to deal, you know, full damage. Maybe this reduces down to 4,000 damage. This reduces down to 3,000 damage, in which case this adds up to 12. You know, so it gives you a different outlier set. So that would, one, it would mean that you could finely tune what you would expect a destroyer to take from said CV. And 2, it would mean that people that are going to nail, just wham, nail somebody for every rocket they're going to hit. You know, the Super Unicum players aren't going to just be like leaps and bounds football fields ahead of somebody else. They're going to be at least within shouting distance of somebody else that, you know, otherwise wouldn't really be able to keep up. Seems like you're describing saturation. Saturation is a mechanic that's kind of designed to show like a battleship or a ship gets kind of the shit kicked out of it. So it takes reduced amounts of damage. The diminishing return thing would be its own subset, specifically basically for CVs. Why? Because CVs are extremely accurate. They break the boundaries of a few different mechanics. They break detection mechanics because they can go somewhere and detect something. They break kind of juking mechanics because they're literally so close to the enemy ship that they can really just precisely hone that drop to where it's almost undodgeable. Depending on how klutzy the damn CV is, because the Hakuryu was real fucking slow. I mean, you got a lot of options there, but because CVs are extremely accurate, it means that a Super Unicum that's going to have extreme accuracy is going to bitch slap a destroyer in a way that it's not going to recover from, and it's just going to be fucking brutal. So I think in this case, some additional assistance would be warranted, and if Wargaming could figure, we think tier 8 rockets should do 3 to 5 against the DD. Destroyers in that range have roughly 12 to 16,000 health. You know, that's potentially 4 to 5 shots if on the low end. It's potentially like 3 to 4 shots on the high end. Doesn't mean you want to get spotted and rocketed, but it means that a Super Unicum doesn't wham, nail you for 12. or 8 or something. It's like, holy God, there went fucking 70% of my health. What the shit?